What if the best protein food for your body isn't what you've always been told? Most people over 50 are eating the wrong protein source and don't even realize it. There's a food cheaper than eggs, cleaner, and dramatically better for burning stubborn fat fast. The shocking part, your doctor has probably never once mentioned this food to you. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what it is and how to use it. Let's start with what's actually happening inside your body after you cross that 50-year mark. After 50, your body begins losing muscle tissue every single year without you even noticing. This condition has a name. It's called sarcopenia, and it silently steals your strength daily. On average, you lose about 1% of your muscle mass every year after 50. That doesn't sound like much, but over a decade, that's 10% of your muscle gone. Less muscle means a slower metabolism, and a slower metabolism means more fat storage every day. It also means higher insulin resistance, which makes burning belly fat feel almost completely impossible. So the real solution here isn't a pill, a surgery, or some trendy crash diet. The real solution is high-quality bioavailable protein, the kind your body can actually absorb and use. Your body needs protein to repair tissues, rebuild muscle fibers, and keep your metabolism running efficiently. Now, eggs are great. I genuinely love eggs and eat them regularly throughout my week. One egg gives you about 6 grams of protein along with healthy fats and B vitamins. Eggs also contain choline, good cholesterol, and they're very easy for most people to digest well. But here's the truth. Eggs are not the only answer, and they're not even the best. There's a protein source that outperforms eggs in almost every category that matters for fat loss. It's cheaper, it's higher in protein per calorie, and it's been quietly sitting in your grocery store. That food is cottage cheese. And before you roll your eyes, hear me out completely. Cottage cheese is one of the most underrated, misunderstood fat, burning muscle-building foods available to us today. When you compare it directly to eggs, the numbers genuinely shock most people the first time. Cottage cheese has fewer calories because it contains less fat, making it leaner than eggs overall. But the real magic is the protein-to-calorie ratio. Cottage cheese wins this comparison every single time. Just half a cup of cottage cheese delivers roughly 14 grams of high-quality complete protein. And that half cup comes in at under 100 calories, making it incredibly efficient for fat loss. Now here's what makes cottage cheese truly special: the type of protein it contains inside. Cottage cheese is loaded with a protein called casein, and casein changes everything about how you feel. Casein is a slow-digesting protein, meaning it releases amino acids into your bloodstream gradually over time. This slow release keeps you feeling full and satisfied for hours after you eat your cottage cheese. When you feel full longer, the sugar cravings disappear, the carbohydrate binges stop, the grazing stops. That constant urge to snack between meals, cottage cheese quietly kills that habit for most people. Cottage cheese is also rich in calcium and phosphorus, 2 minerals critical for bone and muscle health. After 50, bone density becomes a serious concern, especially for women going through or past menopause. This food is also remarkably high in leucine, which is the amino acid that matters most. Leucine is the key that unlocks muscle protein synthesis. It literally signals your body to build muscle. Without enough leucine in your diet, your muscles cannot rebuild themselves properly after any exercise session. Cottage cheese delivers leucine in amounts that rival expensive protein supplements sitting on health store shelves. Now you might be asking yourself, why has no one told me about this before now? Why hasn't my doctor mentioned cottage cheese as a serious tool for fat loss and muscle building? Here's the honest answer. Most conventional doctors receive almost no training in nutritional biochemistry at all. They don't study leucine thresholds, insulin responses, or how different proteins digest inside the human body. They tend to lump all dairy together, fearing saturated fat and lactose, without examining the nuance carefully. But cottage cheese is actually very low in lactose compared to most other dairy products out there. And when you choose the right kind of cottage cheese, it becomes one of the cleanest proteins available. Grass-fed, organic, plain cottage cheese is a genuinely clean animal protein with minimal inflammatory compounds inside. So let's talk about exactly how to use cottage cheese to get real results for your body. The best time to eat cottage cheese is, first thing, use it to break your daily fast. When you sit down for your first meal, open with 1 full cup of cottage cheese first. This gives your muscles a slow, steady stream of amino acids right at the start of eating. It sets your metabolism up to run efficiently and keeps insulin levels stable throughout your whole morning. Now, some people ask about eating cottage cheese at night, and this is actually worth discussing seriously. I generally don't recommend eating close to bedtime, but cottage cheese is one legitimate exception here. If you had a particularly hard strength training session that day, your muscles need overnight recovery support. Having half a cup to a full cup of cottage cheese about 2 hours before sleeping works well. The casein digests slowly through the night, feeding your muscles and preventing breakdown while you sleep deeply. This is especially useful on the days when you've really pushed yourself hard during training sessions. Now let's talk about what you can pair with your cottage cheese to amplify the results further. Add a small handful of organic blueberries on top. That's roughly half a cup of berries. Blueberries bring antioxidants and natural sweetness without spiking your blood sugar into a dangerous zone at all. You can also stir in 1 tablespoon of organic chia seeds or ground flax seeds on top. These add fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, and help slow digestion even further for longer-lasting fullness today. Sprinkle a small amount of Ceylon cinnamon on top to help your body manage blood sugar better. Ceylon cinnamon, not the cheap cassia kind, has real research behind it for blood sugar support. If you want to push the protein content even higher, add a scoop of collagen protein powder. Beef protein isolate also works beautifully stirred into cottage cheese without dramatically changing the taste or texture. This combination can push your single meal protein content up to 35 or even 40 grams easily. Let me share a story that really brought all of this home for me in a powerful way. I have a friend. Her name is Lisa, and she was deep in her menopause years. She had been diagnosed with osteoporosis, she was gaining weight steadily, and she felt completely stuck inside. Lisa did 2 things that changed absolutely everything about her health, her body, and her confidence. First, she found a physical activity she genuinely loved, pickleball, and she became completely obsessed with it. She didn't force herself onto a treadmill she hated. She found joyful movement and embraced it fully. Second, she started eating cottage cheese consistently. Most days of the week, she made it a habit. Within months, Lisa had lost a significant amount of weight, and her energy had completely transformed around her. But the most remarkable part, she actually reversed her osteoporosis diagnosis, which most people consider irreversible, permanently. Her doctor was stunned. Her bone density improved. Her inflammation markers dropped. Her metabolism came back alive. That is the real power of combining the right movement with the right protein source consistently over time. Now let's talk about how cottage cheese affects your hormones, because this part is critically important after 50. As you age, cortisol tends to rise, insulin sensitivity drops, and your hormonal balance shifts significantly inward. Cottage cheese, because of its slow casein digestion, helps stabilize both blood sugar and insulin response naturally. When insulin stays stable, cortisol has less reason to spike, and belly fat becomes far easier to burn. It also supports bone density through calcium, magnesium, and vitamin K2, especially in grass-fed organic versions. This is a food that works with your hormones instead of constantly fighting against them every single day. Now, and this is important, not all cottage cheese sitting on grocery store shelves is actually equal. There are brands out there that will quietly sabotage your fat loss goals without you knowing at all. Here is what you absolutely need to avoid when you're standing in the grocery store dairy aisle. Avoid any cottage cheese that contains added sugars or comes in sweet fruit-flavored varieties. Skip those entirely. Those hidden sugars trigger insulin spikes that directly undermine everything you're trying to achieve with your diet. Avoid brands that use low-quality dairy from grain-fed cows, as these tend to be inflammatory inside your body. Also avoid products that contain thickeners and gums like carrageenan or maltodextrin. These are hard on digestion. Instead, look specifically for full fat, or at minimum 2% organic cottage cheese in the plain unsweetened form. Ideally, you want it sourced from grass-fed, grass-finished cows. This makes a meaningful nutritional difference overall. Here's something that might surprise you. You can actually freeze cottage cheese and eat it like ice cream. Blend it with Ceylon cinnamon and a scoop of your protein powder, then freeze it for a few hours. The texture becomes creamy, the flavor is surprisingly satisfying, and the protein content stays completely intact throughout. This is a genuinely enjoyable high-protein dessert that doesn't derail your progress or spike your blood sugar badly. Now let's address the most common questions people have about adding cottage cheese into their daily eating routine. If you're lactose intolerant, the good news is that cottage cheese is naturally low in lactose already. Many people who struggle with regular dairy find they tolerate cottage cheese perfectly well without any digestive issues. If you remain sensitive, there are excellent lactose-free cottage cheese options now widely available in most grocery stores. People often ask how cottage cheese compares to Greek yogurt for fat loss and muscle-building goals. In terms of protein per calorie, they're actually fairly similar. There's not a huge difference there, honestly. The key difference is the protein type. Cottage cheese is mostly casein, which is slow-digesting protein. Greek yogurt contains a blend of both whey and casein, making the timing of eating it matter more. Because of the whey component in Greek yogurt, it's actually best consumed right after a workout session. Cottage cheese, being mostly casein, is better suited for your first meal of the day, or nighttime use. Another common question: will dairy like cottage cheese raise estrogen or interfere with your hormonal balance negatively? The answer is no, not when you're choosing a clean, high-quality organic grass-fed source consistently. Cows raised on grass without hormones or antibiotics produce dairy that supports your hormones, not disrupts them. The problem is cheap conventional dairy loaded with synthetic hormones. That is what you need to avoid. People also ask whether it's safe to eat cottage cheese every single day without any kind of break. Honestly, I recommend rotating it rather than making it a daily permanent fixture in your eating routine. When you eat the same food every day for months, your body can begin developing sensitivities to it. This happens with eggs, with avocado, with almonds, and yes, it can happen with cottage cheese too. A good approach is having it 5 days a week and giving yourself 2 days completely off from it. Or simply eat it on the days you exercise and skip it on your rest and recovery days. As for how much protein you actually need daily, the number is simpler than most people make it. Aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal goal body weight on most days. So if your goal weight is 150 pounds, you're targeting 150 grams of total protein throughout your day. 1 cup of cottage cheese contributes roughly 28 grams toward that target. That's a significant and meaningful contribution. Add in your eggs, your meat, your fish, and you'll hit your daily protein target without much difficulty. If you want to track it easily, there are free apps that make logging your protein intake very simple. Here is the bottom line. Cottage cheese deserves a serious place in your nutrition routine after 50. It builds muscle, burns fat, stabilizes hormones, supports bone density, and keeps you full between your meals. It's inexpensive, widely available, incredibly versatile, and backed by real nutritional science that most people simply overlook. Start with half a cup to 1 cup most days, and pay attention to how your body responds. The results, in energy, in body composition, in how you feel, will speak completely for themselves over time.